fantasy rivals.
All right, one of the more interesting games on the schedule this Sunday. Happy Sunday, Mark, before we get going. It is Football Sunday, bud.
Hey, you too.
We are up early.
That's right.
We are ready to go. Come on, baby. So right now, one of the most exciting games we got, Brady-Rodgers in the discount double check. This is only the third time ever that these two have met. Rodgers won by 5 in 2014. Brady won by a couple touchdowns in 2018. Obviously, that's when Brady was still on the Patriots. Let's talk a little bit about this game. What are your initial thoughts?
Very excited for this game. I believe it's at 3:30.
Yep.
Very excited to see all of Tom's weapons back together, hopefully. I know they're all expected to play. Everyone's questionable. But I think it'd be a much better game if everyone's back, and a little less hobbling out of Evans would be perfect.
So maybe, and that's the thing, because Evans, he always has injury problems. He usually plays through it. He actually has a touchdown every game this season, which is incredible, obviously becoming Tom Brady's favorite red zone target. But looking at what we got, Fournette with an ankle injury, they said he's a game-time decision. Again, played last week, dressed, didn't get any touches.
We played last week.
Right. Had to have hurt a lot of fantasy owners there. Anyone that took the risk on starting him coming off that ankle injury. Godwin, first game back in a couple, I believe, coming off a hammy injury. For those two guys, I mean, obviously Godwin back, that's going to free up a lot of room for Mike Evans. It's only going to help Tom Brady. But Fournette with an ankle, I mean, do you see him being effective? Do you see him getting any touches? Because Ronald Jones was effective last week.
Yeah, if I'm Tampa Bay, I'm not super rushing Fournette back at all. You know, they've been effective with Ronald Jones, and your best players are on the outside anyways. You just want to hope that Godwin and Evans both can play and both be maybe not 100%, let's say 85, because Jair Alexander's covering one of those guys.
So good.
You know, you take one, then who's guarding the other one? You know, that's the kind of matchup you're hoping for. Hammies as a wide receiver also aren't great. So hopefully this isn't a recurring thing. But if they're both on the field, I think it's a huge advantage for the Buccaneers.
Well, and that's the thing with these soft tissue injuries is you really don't know when that player is going to be 100%. I mean, there's only 17 games, right, in a regular season. Your player's only playing 16. So when you draft someone as high as you drafted Godwin, and he does have the opportunity to play, you have to play him, right, as a fantasy manager?
Oh, for sure. There's a handful of guys, they're playing, you're starting them almost no matter what. You know, doesn't matter if their ankle's halfway on or not. Mike Evans for me last week, he barely ran around. He got like 2 catches, but
didn't matter when one of them was a touchdown.
Way to score.
Exactly. And then on the Packers side of the ball, Davante Adams is coming back. Again, I mean, this is just a completely different offense when Davante Adams is in the game. You know he's going to go over 100 yards and score a touchdown every week when active.
Yeah, he's obviously Aaron's favorite target, far and away.
How could he not be?
For you.
Yeah.
Did anyone show you last week that they could step up and be a number 2, or I should say 3, after basically the running backs? They had pretty good running backs, and then Adams. Anyone else with their weapons you like?
So here's my biggest problem with the Packer receiving core outside of Davante Adams is consistency, especially from a fantasy perspective. You got a guy like MVS, even when Allen Lazard was in the game, who obviously just had that core muscle surgery. But I think it's just, one, there's a lot of drop balls. I've seen a lot of drop passes with Adams out, and end of last year with Adams out too. Rodgers did not look like Aaron Rodgers last year because he did not have those weapons, and that's why taking Jordan Love in the first round was so controversial, because there is no consistency. So I don't know if that's something it's probably a combination of the wide receivers not being as good, but also Rodgers spreading the ball around. If he doesn't have one of his main targets in the game, he has no allegiance to anybody, right? He's the kind of guy, he's going to read the defense, he's going to pick the right matchup, and that's where he's going to go with the football. So I think it's a little bit of both when it comes down to it, but the biggest problem with the Packers' wide receiving core outside of Davante Adams is consistency.
And hello, Robert Tonyan. What? No allegiance to anybody.
No.
That guy, his own family wouldn't pass him if it was up to him.
Yeah, 3 touchdowns in that game. But here's the thing. You had Jimmy Graham there for a couple of years. Nothing. Rodgers doesn't need tight ends. But again, that goes back to what we're talking about where he plays the matchup. In that specific game, he must have liked what he had. He probably had a linebacker on Robert Tonyan, and he knows that he's an athlete, and that was the matchup he was going to exploit. So I think it's week-to-week dependent, but that's why outside of Devontae Adams or Aaron Jones, I don't touch anyone on the Packers offense for fantasy purposes.
Right. And so that brings up my next question. Was drafting Jordan Love the best thing that ever happened to the Packers?
I think it's the best thing to ever happen to the Bears. Yeah, I think it's the best thing to ever happen to the Bears and the rest of the league because, I mean, you plug in a guy. Look at how many rookie wide receivers were taken pretty high this year. You had CeeDee Lamb, Brandon Ayuk, my guy Jalen Reagor, who hasn't done much, but Jerry Jeudy, yep. So you have some young receivers coming in this league that are dynamic. Yeah. So what was your question again? Drafting Jordan Love. No, I think that was a mistake. Although Rodgers is playing pissed off and it's working out well. I've seen some interviews with management and they're saying like, hey, this is a 3-4 year play out. It's not something we want to take over. But you were in the NFC Championship game last year. And your biggest problem was finding someone to get the football to. It was not the quarterback, right? And I feel like with Jordan Love, you have a situation where he could have gotten drafted somewhere else if he was even going to get taken in the first round. Is Jordan Love a first-round talent?
Good question. But all these other first-round rookie quarterbacks have been impressive.
They have been.
And we still have yet to see Tua. But that's a whole other topic.
I think he's going to be good. Yeah, I think he's going to be good too. But
Jordan Love never plays again. And he just basically made the Packers quarterback play better.
Well, and if you think about it, though, if the Packers would have let someone else draft Jordan Love, you still have 5 years left with Aaron Rodgers. Odds are he would have gone to another team that screwed him up. Because that's what a lot of these head coaches are doing, is they're screwing up talented quarterbacks because they're trying to force them into a system that doesn't work for them, right? Look at Bill Belichick. The talent you have, and I know I always bring up the Patriots, but how can you not? He knows what he has. He had Tom Brady for 20 years. Cam Newton comes in, the entire offense is different. Why? Because that's what's going to work best for Cam Newton. So you don't see coaches in the league making enough adjustments, in my opinion, when it comes to this kind of stuff. So you could have had Jordan Love go somewhere else, and then you probably could have scooped him up cheap while giving Rodgers another weapon and another chance to get past the NFC Championship game and make it to the Super Bowl.
And now watch this. Packers cut Jordan Love. He signs with the Patriots.
How great would that be? And then Belichick won't want to pay him. He'll leave New England and suck somewhere else because that's exactly what happens.
Yep.
That's exactly what happens.
Coaching when he's 95 and still collecting rings.
Yep, and he's going to have the same mean mug and stare. No happiness out of that, man. Good play is expected. All right, so in this game, Brady-Rodgers, who you got? What do you like?
I am on the Buccaneers this one.
Okay.
I do think they bounce back after a long week and kind of an embarrassing loss. I do think the embarrassment of Brady forgetting what down was.
Oh, how bad was that?
Is really going to haunt him. And, his line basically getting chewed up by the Bears front seven. I'd like, because it's at Tampa as well, I like the Buccaneers in this one.
Okay, see, here's the thing I'll say. Tom Brady is a winner. And historically, coming off a loss, his record, I don't have the exact numbers, but coming off a loss, Brady doesn't lose back-to-back games very often, right? Because he does have that drive. And he's next level. He's the GOAT. He's the greatest there ever was. But my biggest thing is I think this offense is still trying to figure it out. I think they're still gelling. I think with Fournette out, the running game, there's some uncertainty there. And again, just learning a new system. Everything's timing in the NFL, especially when it comes to wide receivers. I mean, we look at Godwin. Brady hasn't had a ton of time with Godwin this season in a game setting, right? And we're still only 5 games in, so that's a small sample size for the rest of the offense. So I think if this game was played a little bit later in the year, potentially the NFC Championship game, I think that it's going to be a lot closer of a game. But I think right now Rodgers is just too hot. There's still a lot of stuff that needs to get figured out in Tampa Bay. I'm going to give this one to the Pack 35-27, and it does kill me to pick the Packers and Aaron Rodgers, but
I'm going 31-28 Bucks.
31-28 Bucks. So we got a lot of points, some high-flying offenses. It should be fun to watch.